Welcome to the Awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
You are listening to episode number 119 of the Awesomers.com podcast series, and this is part 2 of a 3-part series with the brilliant entrepreneur David Paul Doyle. Now, yesterday we talked about some of David Paul's journey and, where he kind of started out, where he came from, and that's an important listen if you haven't already had it. Today we're going to dive deeper into his journey and kind of carry you a little farther along, and I think David Paul will share some of the pivot points and some of the aha moments that he had along the way in his journey, which I find to be fascinating and I really identify with as an entrepreneur who's been around the block a day or two. So you're not going to want to miss this. Again, this is part 2 of a 3-part series with David Paul Doyle. Let's jump on into it right now. Okay, here we are. We're back again, everybody. Steve Simonson, joined again by David Paul Doyle, and we've been talking about in our last segment where David came from. We went through the Air Force Academy, ended up dropping out of there midway through and going on to UC Berkeley after that epiphany moment. And you mentioned that right after university, or perhaps even during that, you met your soon-to-be wife, and then you guys went on this path of writing books. And the books were, again, about meditation, spiritual types of things. Can you tell us a little bit about how that got started?
Boy, so met my wife at this church in Berkeley, and it was kind of I was seeking, when I left the academy and got into Berkeley, I really had no idea what those books were about. But I'll tell you what kind of really set me off on this path is my mom passed away only about a year later when I was young. So I was a junior, just finished up my first year at Berkeley, and my mom suddenly passed away. And it really threw me into a loop. I got to be honest with you. I had, I don't know what happened, but so one thing I didn't share is my mom worked on kind of a spiritual book for many years. That's what she did kind of on the side, but it wasn't a profession. But as soon as she passed away, it was only about a week before I was supposed to finish up my junior year and finish finals. I was really messed up emotionally. And, she was only 43 and I was only 24. And so I actually hitchhiked to Yosemite by myself with a backpack with hardly anything in it. And I just walked out into the woods, and I lived in a cave for about 3 weeks. And I just meditated and fished all day long. I literally was meditating a ton. And I came back a very different person after I was probably meditating 6 to 8 hours a day, trying to process the passing of my mom. And I lost a lot of, when I came back from there, I kind of lost all my ambition. Honestly, I didn't care anything about school. I didn't care anything about anything, really. I was just wanted to go deeper and figure out who I was, what I wanted to do with my life, what was important to me. And I think it was really the important part. What's important? I just lost this parent, and it just threw a wrench into my whole framework of what mattered in life. And I didn't know what it was. I just knew I became a seeker at that moment. And so I just started I was in Berkeley, one of the, crazy, super liberal places on the planet.
Now, I don't know if that's fair. Come on.
Especially at that time. And I really just started drifting through taking classes in town and whatnot. And so I just met my wife at this one church, and I started meditating more. I started really getting into martial arts and just kind of all those soft skills of mental, emotional processing. And one thing led to another. My wife and I ended up moving to Hawaii together not long after that, maybe a year or so after college. And then we were both seeking, and we were seeking answers within ourselves. We weren't really looking for answers outside of ourselves any longer. We just kept meditating and going within and seeking our own guidance, seeking our own understanding, seeking our own truth and our own path. And we really were just getting great internal guidance. We were getting a very clear communication within our own hearts and minds about what was true for us, about what mattered to us. And we ended up really coming up with a process to help people get their own answers. We didn't want to teach people what was true, what was not true, or, that kind of thing. We really became a follower of our own inner guidance. And that's what we wanted to teach people. So a lot of the books that we ended up writing about were not about, belief systems or truths or anything like that. It was more about, hey, we're going to teach you meditation techniques to help you go within and get your own answers. We didn't want to give people any answers. We just wanted them to help them get their own answers for themselves about what mattered to them, what was true for them, what their own purpose in life is, help them connect with themselves. It's all about just connecting with themselves. So that's what we did for 10 years is, so I worked in high tech right after we kind of came back from Hawaii. I worked in high tech. I had a lot of friends in Silicon Valley, obviously growing up there. And I was had a bent towards technology. And so anyway, I worked my first job was at 3Com, which was kind of a networking company. I then got a job at AOL. And then when AOL bought Netscape, we moved on to the Netscape campus. And, I worked on the Netscape campus for 3 years and just was really involved in that world for a while. But in 2003, when the .com thing happened, I survived like 7 rounds of layoffs. And then I could have moved back east. And I really just didn't want to move back east. AOL's headquarters were back there. They were closing down the whole West Coast. And I just decided, you know what, let's go fulfill this dream that we both had to write books and to help people in that way and get out of the rat race of the Valley or get out of the rat race of working for a big company. So her parents lived in Ashland, Oregon, and her dad had been there for maybe 20 years. And so it was a really beautiful area. Our daughter was 3 years old at the time. We thought, man, what a great place to raise her. So I had a little bit of savings. And her dad had this extra cabin on this lake, this little serious cabin, like, 1 room kind of thing. It was a barn that he kind of converted. And we just said, you know what, let's go live off our savings and go write this book that we've always wanted to write. So we moved up to Ashland in 2003 and I just quit my job, moved up there. And that was a scary time. Just like, can we make it? Like, this is crazy, but we went for it anyway. And so the books that we really wrote, ended up writing 3 books. I wrote the last 2 books by myself, but the first book my wife and I wrote together. And really just helping people. They were all the same topic, just helping people get their own answers.
I like that. Well, I there's a couple things that you talked about in there that I find particularly interesting. In our first segment, we talked about this idea that, we're problem solvers by nature, and that even when you get beaten down, you kind of carry on. And you've elaborated today that, there's more important things in this world. Your mom passed away at 43 when you were a young man. And you're still a young man, but let's be honest, you were younger then. And, that puts perspective on, the problems we deal with day to day, right? When somebody calls and says, well, I'll tell you, last night, I'll share this with the Awesomers and David Paul directly. Last night, one of the guys that works for me in China, he's there to inspect somewhere between 7 and 10 containers that are supposed to leave one of our factories. And when he gets there, he sends me pictures of the factory that's on fire. And mostly it's out now, but you can see at least 2 of the 3 stories have had smoke and fire flames coming out of the windows. It's all singed, and there's still smoke coming out, and you can see the fire hoses everywhere in the pictures. And he's like, bad news, I can't inspect today. There's been another fire here. And by the way, this is not uncommon in certain industries that for factories have fires, but it's not a day-to-day event. It's just, once in a long while event. So that problem though, now luckily nobody was injured during the fire, everybody was okay, but it creates a level of chaos that was unpredicted, right? There's no way we can predict this. There's no way you can build a system around what do you do when this supplier has a fire on this day. So you just have to kind of react, and you just have to start solving problems. And even as weird as that problem is, and potentially significant, 7 to 10 containers right out of the expected supply chain. We've already programmed the sales for this. It's probably already pre-sold stuff. That's just what we got to do. And there are bigger problems. There's bigger issues in this world, and they revolve around living our lives, right? What we do for our jobs and what we do for our income and our livelihoods is part fun. Ideally, it's still part fun, but it's to serve a purpose of generating income and ideally creating equity, wealth over the long haul. That's why we do that stuff. And again, it's nice if it's fun, but it's okay when it's not, because it's still work. But we do it for the bigger purposes. And everybody defines, as you said yourself, they have to define their own purpose, right? They have to find their own reasons why. But for me, the idea that family and the idea that you talked about, and again, in our first segment, if you're on your deathbed, will you look and go, I've lived a full life? All of those are the right questions to ask. So I'm impressed that you did that so early and so young, that you were able to kind of take that down. But I would love if you could just share, when you're in the cave meditating 6 to 8 hours a day, how does that meditation work? People use the word meditation. I don't know. Are you chanting for 8 hours? Are you taking naps for 8 hours? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, there's no right way to meditate. There's like literally 1,000 ways to meditate, and I'm a feeler. Like I'm just, there's so many people are mental. Some people are more like, we're all, our minds are all very unique. But I am a real big feeler. And really the thing that I love to do is just feel everything. It kind of sucks sometimes because I have to feel a lot of pain at the same time of feeling all this joy. Like they coexist, or one comes first and the other comes second. But I really just was feeling through all the grief and sadness. And because I love to feel, I just go deeper and deeper and deeper with feeling. And you end up, for me, the techniques that, the outcome of my process, my own personal processes, I work through tons of pain and tons of challenges to free myself from them. So some people might do that same thing with their mind. They might choose, or they might shift belief systems, or they might shift their attitudes. There's so many ways to work through challenge, but I'm a feeler. It's how I'm born, wired, in terms of that's how I'm wired. So I feel my way through things. So I really was just feeling everything I could possibly feel until it dissolves and is gone. Like I can just feel something so full and complete that then it just melts away and it never comes back. Right. And you just kind of keep peeling off layers and layers and layers and layers. And so I got to a place during that particular time, and usually where I end up when I meditate in general is I'll feel through whatever's going on. And then when everything dissolves and falls away, I'm just left with this really peaceful, blissful, connected place where I feel whole and complete and connected with something greater.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people out there who would like that feeling. That's for sure. Now, I suppose that your books having been published already, are they still available out there on the Amazons and the whatever?
Yeah. We made our living doing that for a good 10 years, and I charged money for it. Today, it's kind of my philanthropy, one of my philanthropies in the world, and I just give it all away for free. So, you can look us up online or go to Amazon, and I think our ebooks now are just free. They're $0 and you can just enjoy them.
Make sure we try to get those links posted on the show notes pages and whatever, because I do think that, the work that you're doing, first of all, there's no obligation to give away free. So thank you for that. But people who are trying to figure out, or find themselves, there's all kinds of different ways of the nomenclature around getting your mind right. They struggle with it, right? And just having a unique approach and your own approach where you say, you're not driving a particular belief system. You're just helping you find out how you are wired, how you are,
Yeah. I will say though that some of our books are kind of out there. So they're not for everybody. And I don't even care. I mean, like, I don't push my work on anyone. I don't even talk about it really. I'm being very candid and open, but it's not something that I think people need, or, I know people will find their own answers. So I never even suggest those books to people.
I definitely am there, and I could do the out there math with the Berkeley and the whole thing to begin with. But no, listen, I think, for anybody who wants to take that action, sometimes people just need to find a path. You found a path for you, and then you said, I can help other people. And again, for 10 years, that was your livelihood. Now, was there a big lesson you learned from the journey, or perhaps another defining moment that put you on the course you're on today from then to now? Like, how did you go from the books to the selling stuff online?
Yeah, good question. It wasn't easy being an author all those years financially. It was super rewarding personally. I really felt like we were on purpose, but it wasn't easy. And I did it all myself. I never had a single employee. So I built the website. I did the, email autoresponders, the email marketing, the graphic. Like, I was a one-man show for 10 years because it seemed like the best way to do it. And it was not easy though. Figuring out how to survive being an author of a niche, and a really niche market. And every year I would, go within in my own meditations and say, hey, are we on the right track? Should we continue to do what we're doing? And every single year I just felt a resounding yes in my heart. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And one day, I think we had done this. I had so this was kind of when webinars were coming along. This was, back in 2011, 10, 11, 12. We were making a lot of our living by launching programs, and like certification programs, and doing webinars and things like that. And I spent 6 months putting together this huge product launch with partners and affiliates, and just putting things out there. And at the end of the day, everyone signs up, and we had this 1-year program, and I kind of was sitting back, and I'm like, man, so okay, we have income coming in now for another year, but I was exhausted. I was tired, and I'm like, holy crap. I spent 6 months preparing for this product launch, all to go survive for another year. And we had been doing this now for 10 years. I'm like, I don't know if I can keep doing this forever. Especially my dad was in his early 70s, and my wife's mom was in her early 70s, and they couldn't retire still. I sounds crazy when I told you how successful my dad was earlier, but he was a consumer. So, we won't go down that path, but he just consumed his whole life and still couldn't stop working. And I just was went into meditation one day. I'm like, can I have a side job? What about just having a little job on the side that I could somehow retire someday and not have to be putting in 60 hours a week until I'm 80 years old. Right. And I finally just heard this huge yes in my heart, start a business on the side, start setting aside some money for yourself. Because I'll be honest with you, we were living, just paycheck to paycheck, barely making it. And like I said, I couldn't have felt more fulfilled, but there was a part of me that was starved, a part of my personality that wasn't being met. There's so many different aspects to ourselves, and so many different needs to fulfill in ourselves, and abundance. Financial abundance wasn't one of them. I had lots of abundance in other ways. Financially, it was not there. And really a stability too, a long-term stability was not there in our lives. And I just felt like I needed to think about the long run. Where do I want to be in 20 years? I'm 50 this year, so this was 40. I was 43. I guess the same year my mom, had passed away, and I was kind of like, I don't have retirement. I have no way to put my daughter through college. I have no way to stop working someday. And so I just was, my mind, it was at a time in my life and I'm like, I got to plan. I got to start planning for that. Because actually we had also, the money that we saved to become, that I lived on for a year to become an author was my daughter's college fund. So I liquidated her college fund to go pursue our dream.
Thanks,
so I had nothing in savings. And I just was like, I can't keep working this hard just to survive. There's got to be something accumulating. So anyway, that was this crux moment when I was like, I got to have a side business. And I'd never done that for 10 years. And that's what ended up with started Naturewise.
I love it. It's a perfect spot. Take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to talk about the genesis of Naturewise a little bit, and then where you've been able to climb these great heights. We haven't talked about, kind of your accomplishments, but they're substantial and they're significant. And anybody who's paying attention to e-commerce and building brands, they need to pay very close attention to David Paul Doyle. But we're going to do that right after this break.
Hey, Amazon Marketplace professionals, congratulations on your success to date. Your creativity, strategic vision, problem solving, and discipline have allowed you to build your own e-commerce business. Wouldn't it be great if you had more time to focus on the things that truly drive the sales and growth of your company? Instead of getting lost in a dozen different services and countless spreadsheets, what if there was one system that connected to your Amazon account and automatically gave you the information that you needed to make great decisions and really impact your business? Parsimony ERP can do that. Parsimony is the business operating system for your marketplace business. With Parsimony, you get true double-entry bookkeeping, easy financial statements, full customer service tools, and item-by-item profitability, along with project and task management, and more features are being added all the time. Learn more at parsimony.com. That's Parsimony, Parsimony.com. Parsimony.com. We've got that.
Okay, that wraps up part 2 of this 3-part series with David Paul Doyle. And man, I just have the best time talking with David Paul. He's, not just a bright energy and a brilliant entrepreneur, he's just a fun guy to hang out with. And, I don't focus on all the numbers. You go to a lot of podcasts and a lot of, articles, and everybody's about hyperbole and, how many sales of this day, this hour, this whatever. And I don't get into that because I don't think it's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is, to design and develop and live a life worth living. But you can do it at scale, and David Paul is a very good example of that. His brand has taken off, and he's done very, very well. And, even again, as you grow, there's adversity, there's ups and downs, and that's part of the point of an Awesomer origin story. I hope that you guys are seeing all the gold nuggets and all the lessons that he's been able to share with us thus far. So don't forget to join us for part 3 tomorrow, and we'll wrap up the series with David Paul Doyle. Again, for those who forgot, it's episode number 119 of the Awesomers podcast series. Just go to awesomers.com/119. Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now's a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guest, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at awesomers.com. Thank you again.